Hi, today we are going to talk about this, the idle animation and the walking animation. So finally we are going to add some movement to Ellen. So far she has been always in T-pose, so even when she jumps or she walks around, she's in T-pose, right? So we are going to change that. And these are the steps, okay? There are not so many, but I have to be sincere, it is a little difficult to follow them, so very carefully try to follow the instructions. I try to be as precise as I could. So what do we have to do? What is the big plan, right? Let's move main into the scene, and so we see her. Now when we click on Ellen, what we see is that she has an animator. And compared to the avatar that you see, now we have another one, okay? And also we have a field for the controller. How did we do it? Well, we went into the animations, we right-clicked, we said create, and then somewhere there is an animation controller that every time I have to look for, there you go, kind of to the end, the bottom of it. So you click it, and then I named it Ellen Animation Controller, if I remember correctly. Yes, Ellen Animation Controller. So if I double click on it, this window opens, right? And as you can see, maybe we can make this smaller. There's like the initial states, and then really the initial state is this, in theory this is the exit state, but initially we move to the spawn state. That's why now when I press play, notice that she's kneeling and moving back up, and then she goes into the move. Now spawn is a simple state. Oh, by the way, every time I click on it, apparently she does it. I didn't even know. And is a simple state. So as you can see, this state in the animator, that's what it's called, right, is associated with an animation. So it does it when it moves in there, and that's it. By the way, the condition to move is nothing. So that's why when from entry you press play, unconditionally it moves to the spawn state. Then it moves here again unconditionally, so we remain here right now. Of course, a state machine for the animation will be a little more complicated in the future, but for now it's a one-way street in a sense. From entry to spawn, plays animation once and then goes to move, and we stay here. Now move is not a simple state, this is a blend tree, so you have to actually double click on it. And you go inside and there is a blend tree, okay? And the blend tree, you can right click on it and say add motion as many times as you want, and that's why we have two of these. So what are they? Simply extra animations, right? We have the idle animation. There are two versions, long and short. I chose the short one. And then there is the walk forward animation, okay? So what are they? Well, these are some of the animations that, again, we moved from animation clips from under Ellen 3D Game Kit in the external folder to the asset projects animations, right? So they are here. Because they were a copy with Control D, there was a 1 at the end of each. I removed it so that it looks normal. And of course there is also this that I created, as I showed you by saying create animation controller. And then I have clicked on her, and in the animator I have drag and drop the animation controller here in the first field. But what about this field, right? The second field is the avatar. The avatar, how do I explain it? Is like a file that contains information about the bones in the rig. And they are maybe different for different avatars, but because we are using a humanoid avatar for Ellen, let me show you. For instance, we can click on idle. It's an animation, right? So when you click on an animation, Of course, it expands a little bit, but it doesn't really matter where you click. I think it always shows you the same thing, but basically there are several tabs. So the rig one, you see, as the instructions explain you, it starts with this generic, and we choose humanoid because, well, she has 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head, and she's a person. And so we choose humanoid, and then we say copy from our avatar, right? Basically, it means, okay, this animation, do I map it onto which set of bones? And we are saying the avatar, the bones that are described in the avatars, but you can have many avatars, right? So this is the specific one, and we created using Mixamo, okay? Mixamo.com is a famous website by Adobe that allows to work with animations and ported them over to different models. And then, of course, you have to specify this and then press apply, and it works. You have to do it for every animation. So each of them was generic, switch to humanoid, choose this avatar, apply, each and every one of them, right? So how do you make this this avatar? Well, it is in this special animation, T-pose. No, as an animation is special because it's just one frame, so it doesn't really move. So call it an animation is a bit of a stretch, but it is one way to describe the position of the bones. Maybe is the most neutral, right? So that's why oftentimes the avatar is extracted from the T-pose. That's exactly what we did. See here, this is the avatar. As you can see, the other ones don't have it, right? So the T-pose is an animation like the others, except that it's only one frame, so not really an animation, but that's beyond the point. From this one, we generate the avatar. So notice that when I click on this special T-pose animation, it says humanoid in the rig, and then it says creates from this model. That's because it has its own avatar, right? So it says I don't have to borrow it from anywhere else. But if I click on another animation, any of the other 3, idle, spawn, or forward, look what it says, copy from our avatar, and then always we pick the one from in the T-pose. It's the only one that has an avatar, right? So we start understanding that animations can have an avatar or not, and if they don't, they can do this copy from other avatar. And if they do have it, well, you say create from this model, right? And by the way, it says this model. It doesn't say not even this avatar, right? What's going on? Well, in Unity, this thing, as you can see, is made of many parts. This thing that we call the animation actually has many, many parts, right? Of course, the T-pose seems like it's the one that has the most, but really, all of them have multiple parts, some more, some less. And the T-pose is the one that has the actual 3D description, the model, the mesh. The other ones don't. And this works, again, follow the instructions, but fundamentally, when you go to Mixamo and you say download, well, first of all, here you should choose Unity because it's down for when you don't want to use an animation for Unity. Now, for all the animation, excuse me, all the animation except T-pose, you choose without skin, right? You don't want the skin because the T-pose is the one with the skin, is the one with the mesh, and so only for the T-pose you choose with skin and you say download. For all the others, still you choose always Unity, but you will choose without skin. Again, follow the instructions step by step. It should be there. For the frames, 30 is enough. Keyframe reduction, none, it's fine. Download, okay? And so that's how we download the animations. And the way see, there are so many animations. For instance, we download this one, because it is the T-pose, is the only place where we find it. And we really want to pass through Mixamo because it has this ability, Mixamo, to remap a mesh to upload. So that's what the instructions say. Upload Allen's model onto Mixamo, and we use this button, upload. So there is a window that appears. We drag and drop the Allen's model. It churns for a bit, and then it produces a rigged Allen, and then it's a next couple of times. And then we say download with skin, because it's the T-pose one, and download, and a few seconds, and it's done. So there she is. And that's what we have here. So it has the model. All the others, well, we don't even get them from Mixamo because they are here. And okay, we duplicate them. There is a one at the end. We move them to animation. Then we remove the ones so that they look normal, the names. And these we say from other avatar, this one. But where do we get the avatar? Because the T-pose, even when we download it from Mixamo, doesn't have this. So again, you follow the instructions and we can generate it. And then once it's generated, we can basically, for all the others, we can drag and drop it there. Okay? Always do apply, right? Don't forget. So we have all these animations. Now we have to connect them, right, in some meaningful way. So for now, the connection is basically not really super meaningful. At the start, she plays completely the spawn animation, and then she stays here. And we have to actually manually move this from 0 to 1. That is basically the weight, how much you want to play this animation, the idle animation, or this animation, this is a walking animation. When it is 0, it's 100% idle and nothing walk. When it's a 0.5, it's a mix, like 50-50. And when it's 1, there is no idle, and she's playing completely 100% a walking animation. And then you'll see we will also add another one, a third one for when she runs, when we add pressing shift to make her run, right? And again, this is all cool. So we have the animations per se separated, then we start now gluing them up all together as a first step. This will become much bigger. And then we will associate variables. See, as you can see, there is already parameters here, right? And we have basically none, only blend. That is this one, right? This is called blend. That's the default name. But you can change it. For instance, we can call it speed, because that's what it is, right? But speed, of course, is not in miles or kilometers or anything. It's just between 0 and 1, okay? And we had so basically to refactor the speed programmatically. So if it is, let's say, 10 miles an hour, we had to divide by 10, so that becomes a 1. All this will look in another lesson. But this hopefully now makes a little more sense. When you press play, we can see immediately this kicks in, and now this keeps kicking in. And it is because she's in idle. And now we can double click and move this a little bit. And she slowly starts walking, little more, until she definitely walks more, right? And normally it doesn't happen. Like it's more like, whoop, right? In 1 second, half a second, you go from 0 to 1. Basically, for instance, you press W, and you start ramping up the value of speed between 0 and 1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, until, say, after, say, half a second, it gets to 1, and then she is moving. This way, we avoid to have a jarring transition between the source animation and the destination animation, right? And we don't do any coding today, but next lesson will be about how to glue it all together, right? And we have the foundation laid out. All we have to do is really essentially move this from 0 to 1 and a little more. Then we will also add animation for jumping, of course, when we press a space bar. And of course, we will have to modify a little bit this so that if you press space bar, she stops walking and she jumps. And then once she lands, goes back to the walking animation, right? Or idle, depending the state of the WASD keys in that moment when she lands. So it is all explained in the instructions, but I wanted just to give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on when we, like what they describe, what it means. And pretty much you should be able to do all this without problems. There's just like several checkboxes that you need to press and pay attention to the instructions. I try to separate them into sections, so hopefully they are easier to read. And good luck.